What's up, everyone? It's your girl Shay here, and welcome to my channel if you're new. Welcome back to my channel if you have been here before. As you can tell by the title of today's video, I'm actually going to be discussing the In Touch podcast, which is a podcast that was pretty much hosted by Marchi and Monica Rial, which are two anime voice actresses. And the purpose of this podcast for them was for them to basically discuss and kind of like answer questions, I guess, a little bit about their case that was against another particular voice actor, when this particular voice actor basically sued them for defamation due to tweets that they had put out on Twitter, as well as other stuff as well. And basically this particular voice actor, whose name I am not going to say, but you guys basically know who this is, they basically got into trouble because of allegations that had came to light that had been going on for several years, and then finally a lot of fans as well as victims really wanted him to be held accountable for his actions. And basically this podcast is where they kind of discuss some of the aspects of like kind of what they went through after they came forward, because both of them were also victims. And so basically that's pretty much what a majority of the podcast is about. They are at this time, I believe, able to talk about a majority of stuff, mostly due to the fact that the case is now over with. And basically they're just kind of, at least for us as fans, are able to tell us things that we as fans may have gotten wrong, got incorrect, may have read wrong, since many of us got our like explanations or got most of our news from either Twitter or other articles that may have had a lot of things incorrect, or by like YouTube videos that kind of spun things, you know, to their own narrative pretty much. Now, I am going to say that I have made a video before, like years ago, when all these allegations and everything came to light on Twitter, and I gave my opinion there. My opinion at this point, years later, basically has not changed. And I do stand with a lot of the victims that had to go through this. And my main premise that I said before, that I'm going to say now, to me, it is something worth looking into when several people come forward with a lot of the same stories, because there's no way that you can coerce a lot of women to come forward with a story that is all the same and these women don't know each other. To me, that means there's something to look into regarding that. And another reason why, because I know some people are going to say, well, you're just saying something, or you're just agreeing with them or believing them because you are a woman yourself and you're going to always stand by women. While yes, in some ways this is true, but also the reason why is because of the first reason I said, because of the fact that so many people came forward with the same exact story, that to me it's kind of hard to believe or to not believe them, because that's kind of hard to coerce so many people to have the same story whom do not know each other. But also on top of that, in today's society, there's a lot of women and men whom have been victims of something like this, and then a lot of people just don't believe them, or they get mad at them or upset at them for ever coming forward in the first place, or they have a lot of like questions and they're questioning them and questioning their actions instead of the person that they themselves are talking about. And to me, now in today's society, it's just now starting to turn around, where a lot of people are paying more attention to when people do come forward with stories like this. But yeah, that's what I want to preface it first by saying. Now, as far as the podcast is concerned, at this point, there are only 2 episodes that are out. The very first episode actually talked about what to me was the most important part, was the timeline of how everything pretty much happened. Because as for us on Twitter, we kind of saw everything kind of happen pretty much not around the same time, but we saw everything happen and it just kind of all exploded from there. And a lot of us online got the timeline very incorrect with how everything took place. And especially because of the fact that a lot of people were blaming both Jamie and Monica for their statements, and what caused this particular voice actor to get fired from the company that he worked for, and also to get canceled from several conventions. And they actually go on to explain how this timeline actually worked out, and how their statements really had nothing to do with anything that ended up happening to him that were consequences of his actions. And they were actually, the reasonings for those consequences were actually due to other people coming forward, as well as the push upon from like people online going to these conventions and basically saying like, hey, like, we don't want this person there because of X, Y, and Z. So to me, that was the most important part to me of the very first episode of this podcast. They actually also go on to explain, and I have a few notes on my phone that I actually took for me re-listening to this. They actually also go on to explain how conventions actually work when they book a guest that many of us had no idea and honestly knew nothing about. So one of the things to me that was kind of like with the first episode was them talking about the timeline, like I just mentioned. So one of the first things that they talk about is that both Monica and Jamie didn't make their statements until February, at least their public statements regarding everything until February. But actually at this point, the voice actor in question, or the voice actor, many of you guys know exactly who he is. He actually he was actually fired from Funimation, which is the name of the company that he got fired from. He got fired in January, like end of January. And they go on to say the date. They say he got fired in January 30th. They didn't make their statements until February. So pretty much their statements had nothing to do with his firing. And then they also went on to talk about the conventions as well, and the conventions that canceled his appearance. A lot of the conventions canceled his appearance between mid-January to early February, which with a lot of them happening as well before they ever made their statements. They also talk about as well, like I said, about how conventions work when they come to booking, that this voice actor actually had a lot of verbal bookings, not like a written contract, but a verbal contract about him attending, and that they themselves knew nothing about his appearances, and there was no way for them to contact what is guest services for these conventions to ask for this individual to not be there. And they said that for themselves, it is within their right, though, to ask for themselves to no longer be there if they feel like they are in danger of going to said conventions, especially after their statements online. They did get a lot of hate. We all saw the tweets that went on about them, the videos and stuff like that, that people were mad at them, that people were upset with what they said, and people blamed them and everything else like that. And so they themselves did become a little bit afraid of going to some conventions because of the threats that were made against them. Now, like I said, they did go on to explain that he only had one actual written contract, and I believe that for the written contract, it was a convention that he ended up getting re-invited to. But that's pretty much what the biggest takeaway for me was the first episode. Now, the second episode itself was just where a lot of questions were basically answered, and these were questions that they got like after their first episode. So they actually called the second episode Halftime, which was basically a Q&A where they went and answered, like I said, questions that people had, like, you know, kind of debunking some stuff that people were questioning them about. I can't remember any of the questions off the top of my head, but the main thing to me that I took away once again from this second episode was that it did like give us a lot more insight to things that we ourselves do not actually know about, as well as the legal proceedings and a lot of stuff that is actually public knowledge. So yeah, overall, that is what the first two episodes of this is about. I know there are going to be some people that are going to see this video and they're going to be like, why should I watch this? I don't want to watch this. You don't have to watch or listen to this podcast. I basically listen to it because I find things like this extremely interesting, and I enjoy getting more insight into things that I myself as a fan do not know. Because to me, there's one thing to listen to or watch a YouTube video where someone's basically guessing or going based off of hearsay or their own opinion about things and being like, okay, I believe this is true. And also hearing from the people that actually went through it and getting their account, because to me, their account, at least to me, means so much more, and to me is a lot more believable, especially when there's someone who is in the industry themselves. Now, I do remember, and I just remembered this from the second episode, one of the questions that they actually answered and they give more insight into is this huge misconception that people believe that both Jamie and Monica were after his jobs, when they actually go on to say that a lot of the jobs that he got, they've actually already done, like directing and stuff like that, you know, things like that. They're like, we already do. And they're actually have also said that anytime a friend of theirs gets a job or something like that, they are happy for them, and that in no way, shape, or form are they like gonna try and vie for that person's job. Like, it just doesn't make at all any sense. Like, it just doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't make any sense to them. They also go on and say that they themselves really don't talk about this anymore. I feel like, and I will say this, I feel like this podcast is the first time I myself have seen either Jamie or Monica actually talk about this after everything basically kind of went down and after the whole defamation suit was pretty much over. But like they said, there's still people online and trolls online that still troll them and still talk about this whole entire case and still get mad at them about it, which doesn't make any sense, and there's no way to kind of get over it if these people are still coming at you. They also go on to say, like, instead of people spending time trolling them online, if they really do stand with this particular voice actor, then basically, like, go and enjoy all the stuff that he is still doing and support him. Stop coming after them, especially when they themselves aren't doing anything. Like, they're not doing anything, but you know what I mean. They're not discussing this anymore, so they have no reason to, like, be coming at them. Sorry, my cat is still down here and he's messing with my socks. Now, I will say this, I feel like a lot of people are basically going to either agree with me or not agree with me, or they're gonna hate this video that I made, and that's perfectly fine. You're within your right to have your own opinions. But if you are a fan of anime in particular and you want more insight into kind of like what went down and a little bit more insight into information that we ourselves as fans did not know of, then I highly recommend checking out this podcast. I'm sure a lot of people still gonna have their same like opinions or misgivings about this entire thing. So I'm not saying that you listening to this is going to change your opinion, because it's probably not going to. But to me, as someone who's interested in this kind of thing, it was definitely very eye-opening for me to hear about things as they happened and not based off of like Twitter and what most of us got our information from. So yeah, definitely recommend checking it out. I myself will definitely check out the next episode of this podcast. Now, as far as their uploading schedule, they don't have an uploading schedule per se. I believe at the end of the first episode, they explained that their uploading schedule is just going to be that they're going to record whenever they feel like recording, and I'm looking forward to episode number 3. I'm definitely going to continue to keep listening to you guys. Also, Jamie Marchi has another podcast that she is on, which is called Good Intentions, which she does with another voice actor by the name of J. Michael Tatum, where they basically talk about like spooky, like ghost related or paranormal topics, as well as reading like listener submitted stories about their own spooky experiences. And I also love listening to that podcast as well. I've actually submitted my own story, which they actually did read on there, which was so cool that he listened to. But yeah, highly recommend listening to the In Touch podcast. I'm sure a lot of people, like I said, are going to see this video and they're going to be like, girl, I don't like either one of them. And that's perfectly fine. But still, I recommend listening to it because it definitely gave a lot of information that I basically didn't know. So yeah, listen to it. If you have an iPhone or you have an Apple product, listen to it obviously on Apple Podcasts, and I'm sure it's available on other podcast streaming places if you don't have an Apple product. So yeah, definitely check it out. So I give you guys 5 stars. But yeah, that's the video I have for you guys. So I apologize if you watched this video and you thought I was going to talk bad about Monica or Jamie, because obviously I didn't. I feel like these are both 2 lovely women. I actually got a chance to meet Monica Rial at I think it was the very first Crunchyroll Expo. I got to interview her as well as Caitlin Glass, and Monica is a lovely lady. I hope to meet her again someday. And for Jamie, I have not had a chance to meet her yet, but I would love to meet her sometime soon at a convention. And yeah, to me, you guys ladies are doing it very well. To me, you guys are amazing. And yeah, I look forward to listening to more. So yeah, that's the video I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Some of you guys probably won't, but I really don't care, because I made this video because I felt like it. And yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I have links below all my social media accounts. I have an Instagram, a Twitter, and I also have a TikTok, so feel free to follow me on all my social medias as well. If you are upset about what I said, and feel free to comment below if you want to. Just be respectful. You know, we can have differing opinions, but yeah, don't be mean. I guess is the easiest thing for me to say. And yeah, like I always tell you guys, stay positive, stay nerdy, and stay healthy, and of course, please stay safe. All right, you guys. Bye.